Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Untappd once again, which is a little bit out to the east of Gothenburg, or Göteborg as you would say in Swedish. So the people watching in Sweden will know that this town of course is home to Poppels Bryggeri. So for this one we're going to have a look at one of their more regular beers. It's been a little while since I've reviewed one of their beers actually, but for this one we're having a taste of the Russian Imperial Stout. This guy started its life off of course as Project number 2, and they have sort of upgraded the recipe and things like that and released it as a regular beer, which is pretty cool actually. The Project series from Poppels is always pretty good, but this one comes in at 9.5%. It was rated 94 overall on Rate Beer, and I think it was a 67 that it had in the style. So really looking forward to this one. This is a beer that a number of people commented on certain videos and asked me to review, so I'm finally getting around to doing this one for you. So I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. But yeah, so as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews I've done from Poppels before. No doubt I will add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, of course, and please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Poppels Bryggeri then. So this brewery is named after that was owned by Johann Poppel, who was a really well-known German-Swedish brewer who spent much of his life in Varberg and Gothenburg. So he was actually born between 1605 and 1610 in Lower Saxony in Germany, but he moved to Sweden with his family in the 1620s, and he met his wife Katarina Krakow sometime between 1624 and 1628, and they later went on to found Gothenburg's first brewery officially in 1649, although it is thought that they'd been brewing since around 1638. But he is also said to have written down the city protocol, or the city constitution of Gothenburg in Swedish for the first time, as opposed to German. But the brewery apparently remained in the Poppels family for a number of generations, and the most famous site of this original brewery is in Gothenburg at Stigbergstorget. So it's quite an interesting history, this one, and there are a number of breweries in Sweden who use the names of former companies in the country and kind of revitalise them, which is pretty cool. But this actual version of the brewery was founded in 2012 in Mölnlycke on a site that was owned by the Poppel family. But the brewery is owned by 15 beer lovers, and it basically the aim of this brewery is to essentially make beers that are good for pairing with food, they say. So the current head brewer is Daniel Granat, who is a bit of an experimenter and a perfectionist apparently, so he brews most of these new recipes and things like that 4 to 5 times to tweak them before he finally releases them. But apparently he also reads many beer blogs and keeps up to date with new beers, new hops, new malts, and all of these sorts of things. So this is why I'm saying to you that if you see some of the Project beers from Poppels, these are always the things that you want to go for. These are the quite exciting ones that you want to try. So they're an interesting brewery. They do, for one of the bigger breweries, I think these guys are actually one of the bigger craft breweries in Sweden these days. But for one of the bigger breweries, they are still constantly experimenting, and that's the cool thing. Of course, you do want, even when you're a larger brewery, you do still want to continue experimenting. I mean, the guys like Sierra Nevada and these kind of people over in America, the big American craft breweries, Dogfish Head, they're all doing things like this as well. So it's an interesting brewery. If you get the chance to try some of the Project series, I would highly recommend that you do. And a number of the beers that have been in that have gone on to be some of the regular beers now. So yeah, so that's all you need to know about the brewery. If you want to learn more, of course, do check out the links to the brewery website and stuff in the description below. They do have quite an extensive core range of beers. You can order these through Systembolaget, of course, and from what I understand, these guys do export as well, so you can get these beers abroad. So if you want a taste of Swedish beer, Poppels is somewhere that you can start. So yeah, as I say, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself then. So as you might guess from the name, this one is a Russian Imperial Stout. It comes in at 9.5%. It does tell you a little bit on the back here. It tells you kind of things like how much hops, how much sweetness, and how much kind of bitter character and things that this has. It says on the back too, you should pair this beer with chocolate fondant Stilton or meditation. So that's quite funny actually. But this one is best before the 10th of March 2018. It tells you a little bit about the history of the style on the back from the 1700s and stuff like this. It says, oh yeah, we should have flavours of licorice, chocolate and all of these kind of things. And it has a little statement from Daniel Granat on the back as well. So for this one, we made many different combinations of malt to get the right sort of taste. The finished result gives you a big complexity and a heartly. I'm not sure what mute croup is. I need to learn that word. I've never heard that before. But yeah, basically it should give you a nice flavour and a kind of heartly warmth, something like that. Nice complexity. But yeah, it's quite nicely presented. This one has the typical artwork that you'd expect from Poppels Bryggeri. And on the bottle cap there, you can see this is the kind of standard Poppels bottle cap as well. And they do have Facebook and Instagram and things like that where you can follow the brewery. But yeah, I do like that it says, this is an organic beer as well, I should point that out. It's got the little European organic symbol there. I think all of the Poppels Bryggeri beers actually are organic too, and I'm sure I've said in the past I've been impressed with how much flavour you can get out of some of these organic beers. So yeah. So yeah, as you can see, a nice smoky opening then, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. I think the other brewery that tend to brew a lot of organic beers, of course, are one of my local ones, Poppels Bryggeri. And I have to admit, that's something I've been impressed with overall in Sweden, is the quality of the organic beers, because the organic beers that were being, when I was living in Germany, the organic beers that I was getting in Germany were just, they had a really kind of chalky taste and things like that to them. They were very, you could blind taste it and tell that it was an organic beer, but some of these ones in Sweden, you just would have no idea. There isn't really a taste giveaway or anything like this. They're all pretty well done. And Poppels, of course, and Poppels Bryggeri, they're two breweries that like to play around with these kind of organic beers. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from this beer, it's poured a really nice dark ebony rosewood colour. There's a solid finger and a half, I would say, of a kind of nice beigey tan head on this one. It looks pretty nice actually. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see the beer is pretty much opaque. There's one or two little bits of sediment in there, a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. So overall, it looks really nice. It's kind of exactly what you'd expect from a Russian Imperial Stout, that dark ebony kind of rosewood colour. It looks very, very nice. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Yeah, so this one, it's actually quite sweet. It's got a nice sort of sweet character to it. I can see what they're meaning in saying there's licorice in this, and of course if you have a Swedish Imperial Stout, the Swedes absolutely love licorice and salted licorice. I've started to get into that recently, of course, since I've been living here. It took me a while though. It's definitely a bit of a, that's probably one of the big culture shocks with Sweden, is the dependency on licorice. And you do wonder how more Swedes don't have diabetes with the amount of kind of sweets and candies and stuff that they eat. I always find that quite funny. But anytime you try an Imperial Stout from Sweden, you can always expect some licorice notes, and it's quite apparent in this one. Yeah, so you've got a nice licoricey note, a little bit of a chocolatey character as well. You can smell some of these roasted brown sugars in there as well. There's a nice sort of treacly molasses thing, but as I say, the prominent note of the aroma of this beer for me is the licorice, but you can smell some nice roasted black malts. There's almost a little bit of a coffee smoothness to this one as well, which is quite interesting. Definitely some earthy hop, and you can pick out some of these red fruity esters as well. It's kind of figgy, but it also has a little bit of that raisin sharpness to it as well. So there's a lot going on in the aroma of this one. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma. That's always half the experience when it comes to like craft beer, sake and whiskey and all of these sorts of things. Just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer and stuff for yourself. It's always really nice. You can't really smell the booze on this one though, but definitely it's a nice big chocolatey, licoricey, kind of caramelly treacle sort of thing that's going on in this. It's really nice actually, and so as I say, I've always been impressed with the quality of these beers, the project beers from Poppels, and then especially when it's an organic one. I think that shows you exactly what you can do. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this one is the Russian Imperial Stout from Poppels Bryggeri in Untappd, just to the east of Gothenburg here in Sweden. Skål! That's really nice actually. It's got a very smooth mouthfeel to it. That's the first thing you're going to notice about this one. When you first take it in, it's got a nice little bit, the carbonation attacks your tongue a little bit and then it just smooths out completely. And it becomes really oily and very slightly creamy as well. It's really nicely done. Yeah, that's a pretty damn good beer. There's no doubt about that. To be honest, that's probably the best one I've had from Poppels actually. I really enjoyed the Imperial Pils that they did with Malmö Brewing Company. That was, up until that point, that was probably the best one I'd had from them. But this one is pretty damn good as well. And this is what I was saying to you, you know, try the Project beers. This one started off as, I think it was Project number 2. And then they've obviously played with, as I say, they played with it a little bit and then they released it as a regular beer. So that is one of the cool things. They do like to test recipes, see how they go across and then play with them and re-release them. But yeah, this is a pretty nice beer. I think I've had a double IPA from these guys as well at one point. But this one, to be honest, this one knocks the rest of them out of the park. This is on the next level. I would say that. This is really nicely done, and like I was saying, the amount of flavour you have out of this, considering it's an organic beer, is really impressive. So well done to Poppels Bryggeri on that front as well. Yeah, it's really just well done. This is, I always say with these dark beers, before you start analysing the flavour too much, sugar the beer around your palate and just let your whole mouth adjust to it, of course. But there's a lot going on in this one, so we'll start off with the malts then. So with this one, you can feel some of that roasted black malt just underpinning the beer. It starts to come out a little bit more as you get further into the aftertaste. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer, and I'm really starting to get that quite bitter black roasted malt out of this one now. On top of that, there's almost a little bit of a kind of brown bready character. It's almost got a little bit of that almost German rye bread quality to it, but there's a good bit of chocolate sweetness in there. There's some biscuity kind of cereal elements in there as well. That mixes quite well with the sort of bready character that the beer has. The brown sugars in this one, I think, aren't so apparent in the flavour. They're not quite as sweet as I was expecting. They've got a little bit more of a roasty character. Yeah, the brown sugars, when you actually have the liquid on your tongue, the brown sugars come in at the start of the beer, but they disappear quite quickly. It's it's somewhere between a sort of treacly molasses sort of thing and a sort of lighter caramel, if you like. And you do get a little bit of the licoricey flavour at the start of the beer as well. Then it fades out and it becomes more roasted, toasted and bready and chocolatey, so be aware that most of the sweetness, I think, comes at the front end of the beer and then it just fades out and it starts to become more roasty. There is an element of a kind of coffee sweetness to this as well. As I always say, like when you have black malts, they tend to be quite sharp and quite and just really quite straight up kind of bitter like that, but this beer definitely has some of that kind of coffee smoothness to it and it works really, really well. But yeah, everything in this beer, it's got a lot of complexity to it and everything just kind of fits in together really, really quite nicely. So like I said, I would go as far as saying that this is probably the best beer that I've had from Poppels by a considerable distance, and it's not as if the other beers were bad or anything like that. This one is just on the next level. That's all you can really say about this. It just is a level above the other things that I've tried from them. So have a go at this if you get the chance. In terms of the hoppy side of things in this beer, it's earthy hops. It's as you would expect. In the back corner of the palate, there's a nice earthy hoppy character. To me, the hops that I'm getting off this, it does taste as if it has like a little bit of German noble hop quality in it as well. So I do wonder if there's maybe a combination of German and English hops have gone into this one. It's got that typical earthy note that you'd expect of like East Kent Goldings or something like that, but as you come further forward, some of the earthiness you get on the nearer the front of your tongue, on the sides of the palate, it does have a little bit more of that lighter German noble hop earthiness, and as you go around the front curve of your palate, it's just a little bit lighter and kind of grassier and things. As I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in this beer. Yeah, the fruity character in this one's quite nice as well. As I always say, those little fruity esters just come out in that little oily bubble behind the very front curve of your tongue there. And you can feel it's a nice sort of figgy note that's coming out of this one, although it does have a little bit of a raisiny sharpness to it. There is a little bit of sharpness to the kind of red fruity esters that are in this beer. But overall, like I said, all the flavours go together really nicely. The kind of black malt and things and the earthy hop character that the beer has, they just combine really, really well. And I do like how everything in this beer goes together. So, as I said, a big thumbs up to Poppels Bryggeri. This is probably the best beer that I've tried from these guys so far. And as I said, if you really want to try some of the Poppels beer, make sure you pick up the Project ones. These ones are always the beers that are going to be the standouts from this brewery. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer, I would say this one is mid-bodied. That's probably the one thing I would, if I was nitpicking with this beer, it's the one thing I would pick it up on. It does feel a little bit lighter in the mouthfeel than you would expect from the style. The carbonation is quite smooth. It's got a little bit of oily character to it, but it does lean towards the creamier side of things, but it's still mid-bodied. It needs a little bit, it does need just that little bit more body to it, but that said, that's absolutely nitpicking. The main point is that it is a good beer. From the malt base, like I said, you've got a bit of the roasty bitter character that you'd expect, but there's a good bit of sweetness in there as well. There's some bitterness from the hops, and you've got a nice little bit of juicy fruity character in there as well. So it kind of has everything. It's a very interesting take, and I think the kind of slightly smoother mouthfeel that it has, this is something that I've always found with organic beers. They do often have this slightly chalky mouthfeel to them. It makes them feel a little bit kind of creamy and sort of smoothie and things like that. It's just quite an interesting thing, and this beer definitely does have a little bit of that. The only thing that it lacks for me is just a little bit in the body, but I mean, that's nitpicking. If the beer tastes good, that is the main thing, and this one certainly does taste good. As I said to you, it has a rating of 94 overall. You know, I could live with that. I can live with that rating that it has on Rate Beer. The 67 within the style, I'm not too sure about. I don't think, I mean, as I say, my nitpick with this beer perhaps is the mouthfeel. It has that sort of chalkier, kind of slightly almost creamy mouthfeel to it in comparison to the big oily character and just a little bit of creaminess that you'd expect, but I don't think that's enough to take it down to kind of 67 within the style, so I would disagree with Rate Beer on that, and I think this one was just short of 4 stars on Untappd as well, but for me it deserves that kind of rating that it has. I think 4 out of 5 and kind of 90, 94, 93 I think is probably a good rating for this beer, so it is good, and it's probably one of the better organic beers that I've come across as well. It's probably one of the best organic beers that I've tried for you on the channel, so bear that in mind. It's a really nice beer anyway. That's the best way to kind of sum up this one. It's a really interesting interpretation of the Russian Imperial Stout category. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed my take on this beer. It's been really cool to try another one from Poppels. This was a beer that was recommended to me by a number of you guys who are watching the channel, so thank you for the recommendation. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know what your favourite beers are from Poppels Bryggeri. They're always releasing new things, of course, so hopefully I can review more of them for you in the near future. But please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media, and I will catch you very soon with more beer reviews, and I'm sure we will return to Poppels in the near future. But make sure you check out the Russian Imperial Stout. This is one of the best organic beers, I think, that I've reviewed for you on the channel. So until the next time, it's Landry just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Cheers.